Hi there, David Velasco from haircoloruniversity.com. In today's hair color lesson, I want to talk about some color correction concepts for single process blondes. And specifically, I want to talk about single process blondes because unlike double process blondes, where you eliminate all the warmth, single process blondes, we have to deal with the warmth. In other words, what the hair is going to give you, whether that's going to be a brassy tone or a red tone or a warm tone or a blonde tone, all depends on what kind of color you put on top of it and the interaction between the color and the hair itself. So therefore, we typically run into a lot of problems with single process blonding for that reason, because we don't necessarily predict the residual color value ahead of time, and then we run into problems. What I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to talk about some general rules about single process blonding, and then I'm going to get into specifics on how to correct 5 of the most common single process problems that we encounter every day behind the chair at the salon. All right, so this lesson is going to come out of my book called Incredible Single Process Blondes. It's part of the Trade Secrets for Hair Color Experts series. And again, this is a single process blondes. Of course, we have double process blondes also, which we'll do in another lesson. All right, okay, so let's get going. Okay, first of all, I wanted to say to you that in single process blonding, I have what I call 8 ground rules for single process blonding. And again, these are generic ground rules. It doesn't matter what hair color company you use, Wella, L'Oreal, Firmese, Schwarzkopf, Redken, it doesn't really matter. Rules are rules. These are never going to change. They're always going to be the same. So you have to make sure you understand these what I call these 8 hair color ground rules to begin with. And then we'll get into the parts of how we're going to fix single process blonde problems. Okay, the first thing I want to talk about is we have to learn to control the warm tones. In single process blonding, we never want to end up with a brassy head of hair like this young lady has right here. Okay, brassy blondes happen when you lose control of the contributing color pigment. All right, so again, we have to realize that we're putting color on the hair. So 2 things are going to happen. We have the tone that we're putting on, injecting color into the hair, at the same time decolorizing the natural pigmentation, and then what color you're putting it on and what that hair is going to be brought up to during the oxidation process of the color. All right, so we want to avoid brassy hair color. We want to avoid red orangey blondes. We want to avoid hair that looks too drab or too warm. All right, so you don't want to lose control of the unwanted warm tones. All right. Number 2 is just the opposite. Number 2 is you don't want to go too cool. In other words, drab-looking blondes happen when there is not enough contributing color pigment. All right. Now this girl thinks she looks really good here in this picture, but you can see her hair has a greenish cast to it. Right. That greenish cast is because her hair has been pre-bleached or pre-lightened or really heavily highlighted at some point, and then another color is put on top of it. And what happens is that any time that you put even a warm shade, even like for example golden blonde, on top of someone with pre-lightened hair or pre-bleached hair or very, very porous hair, there's a rule of color that says that the hair will always grab the ash tones. So porous hair will always grab the ash tones in the color and reject the warm tones. And again, keep in mind that if you're using a blended base color, like most color lines are, except for Chromatics, if you're using Chromatics, that's different. But all the other color lines are made with blended bases. So even a warm color, such as an 8G, will have green in it a lot of times, and the hair will grab the green tone. So we want to control the warm tones, and we want to control the cool tones. All right, number 3. Remember that anytime you put an oxidative tint on the hair, you're going to get some warmth. People, anytime that you put color on the hair, you're making an oxidative tint where you're mixing peroxide in with the color, creating the oxidation process, and you put that on the hair, you're going to pull warm tones. Always. No matter what color you put it on, you're going to pull warm tones. So you have to be able to expect that. Now, unfortunately, see down here where it says yes and no. All right. Some people, especially a lot of our customers, tend to think that hair color lightens like this, from dark to light, a little bit lighter to a little bit lighter brown to like a more of a tanny brown to a tan to a beige. And this would be great if hair lightened like that. But we as hairdressers know that doesn't happen, okay? It goes from brown to reddish brown to orange to red to orange to gold to yellow to pale yellow. And a lot of times we'll get stuck right here in the orange, gold, yellow zone as opposed to taking it to pale yellow. Again, we're talking single process blondes here, not double process blondes. So this is what we have to be aware of, is we're fighting gold, orange right in this area right here. All right? Okay, so just be aware of that. Number 4 is keep this little rule in mind. Less lift equals less warmth. In other words, if you're afraid of it becoming too warm, if you think the hair may be too warm or too brassy, don't lift it, don't try lifting it too light. Now this becomes a little bit of an issue because most manufacturers will tell you, most hair color manufacturers will say that you can get up to 5 levels of lift with their hair color. And I'm here to tell you that that's impossible. So let's look at this chart for a second. For example, this is just a generic color, contributing color pigment chart. Basically just says that if you're working on, for example, medium brown hair, that you're going to pull red orange. If you're working on medium blonde hair, level 7, you're going to have pull gold. So if we can do what the manufacturers say, for example, get up to 5 levels of lift, then theoretically we should be able to take someone who's a level 4 medium brown and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and become a nice light blonde like this. And believe me, that will never work. Okay. So there's other classes where I'll teach you why it doesn't work, so I don't want to get too deep into that right now. But for now, suffice to say that you will not get a beautiful yellow tone because your hair color is going to get stuck right up in this area here in the orange zone. All right. So with this in mind, I'd like to tell you something that I call my 2-level rule. And my 2-level rule states that in a single process application, I never try to lighten the hair more than 2 levels, unless I'm creating a redhead. Now, redhead is different. Because if I wanted to go, for example, from a 4 to a 7, and make her like a red gold, I'm going to pull out a red orange, that works fine. But if I want to make her a blonde, trying to bring her up more than 2 levels, forget about it. It's not going to happen. So the best thing I can tell you is that if you really want to take somebody from a level 4 to a very nice blonde shade like this one is here, you have to double process the hair. You cannot lighten that much. All right. So that's the lifting rule here. Again, if you're apprehensive, a lot of times if someone, for example, if your customer is a level 5, for example, you may bring her up to a 7, and then if she wants it lighter than that, I would recommend putting highlights in with a lightener, like with a bleach type formula, to give her the rest of the way. Or if she wants to be blonde all over, then she's a good candidate for a double process blonde, but not a single process blonde. This is what I call the limitations of a tint. In other words, limitations of a tint simply states that we can only do with the products that what the products allow us to do on the hair. We can't perform magic, right? Okay, number 5. And the 5th rule here I want you to keep in mind is this, that with permanent hair color, it's always the combination of the exposed contributing color pigment. In other words, what we just saw earlier, this is exposed contributing color pigment right over here, what the hair is going to give you when you put the color on. It's always a combination of the exposed contributing color pigment and plus the hair color that you actually put on the hair, which gives you your finished result. And if that finished result is going to be a beautiful Nordic blonde like this, or if it's going to be a brassy blonde, will depend on these 2 factors. Number 6, good hair color happens when you're able to predict just how warm the natural color will be and successfully use that warm color as part of your overall color formula and learn to work with it instead of trying to disguise it, pretending that it isn't there. Because guys, it is there. It's going to be there, all right? Again, this law here will never change. Anytime you put an oxidative tint on the hair, you're going to pull warm tones. So we must be able to prepare to work for this, okay? Work with it, not against it. All right, so let's go to number 7. Number 7, if your client has any signs of ashen tones in her hair, i.e. green, gray, mauve, this color must be removed with lightener before you do anything else. So if you're working on someone, for example, and they had the hair pre-lightened someplace else, or maybe she did it at home and she put some bleach on her hair, and she has gray or green or mauve or some kind of weird off colors in her hair, don't even try to color over on top of it. Don't try to neutralize it out like we all learn in beauty school. That does not work. Neutralizing hair like that does not work. You must remove the ashen tones first with a lightener. Like you can use a color remover. I personally would just use a mild bleach solution. I would get, for example, like you can use a powder lightener or a cream lightener, whichever you choose, with maybe like 10 volume developer. Put it on the hair for a few minutes and pull that green right out, and then you're ready to color on top of that. All right. So you must remove that first. Number 8. With this rule here, keep this in mind that fine hair will always react faster to any chemical process than coarse hair. Coarse hair will take longer and will usually be more resistant than fine texture hair. All right. Look at these two girls here at the bottom here. This one has fine hair on the left, and on the right, the girl has coarse hair. If you put the same color on both of these girls, this girl here with the finer hair, her hair would come up much lighter, much faster, because the density of the cuticle layer is much, much thinner than the girl here with very, very heavy, thick hair. Okay, so this one would come up much quicker, and this one come up much slower. And also, fine hair not only comes up faster, but will come up lighter. Okay, it'll come up faster and lighter, as opposed to coarse hair will come up slower and not as light, given the same amount of time. Okay, next I want to talk about what I call the best and worst candidates for single process blonding. In every category of hair color, whether it's blondes, brunettes, or redheads, we have what I call the best candidates for that color and the worst candidates for that color. Now that does not mean that your worst candidates cannot become a certain color, but it's going to take a little bit more work to get them there. All right. So as far as we're talking here again, single process blonding, our best candidates for single process blonding are your natural levels 7, 8, and 9, and 10 if you have any level 10s living in your area, which is highly unlikely. And gray white hair, of course. Gray white hair, like mine, for example, this is my white hair. This is normal, natural, very easy. But keep in mind that some of the white hair here, you're not really lifting the hair, you're really making it darker. Even if you make someone with my hair color a level 8 blonde or level 9 blonde, you're actually deepening the hair instead of lightening the hair. Okay, your worst candidates to try to make a single process blonde, which are actually almost impossible, are levels 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And 6s are maybe. That's an iffy color that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, all right? So here are your best candidates, levels 7, 8, 9, 10, and gray white. And your worst candidates are levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And I'm going to get a little bit deeper into that in a few minutes. Okay, so let's look at why that is. If you look at the color chart that I showed you earlier, or again, this is the contributing color pigment chart that I showed you a few minutes ago, but now I've allocated a big square here that I call the blonde region, okay? Level 7 through 10, the blonde region. And you can see this is why I've said these are your best candidates. And the reason they're your best candidates to become a good single process blonde is because you're starting out a light level already. They already are a level 7 or level 8. So technically, they are blonde already, okay? If you take someone who's a level 1 through 5 and you put any kind of single process blonde on them, you're going to see what you're going to pull here. Strong orange coat, orange red. So you are not going to get the lightening you want. Now, on number 6, I call that the iffy color, okay? And here I have a note. The note says, some people with a level 6 may make good single process blondes, but only if they have cool eye color and a cool skin tone. And this plays a role, guys, okay? I'm going to jump to the next page just for a second here, and you can see what I'm talking about. Here's the same chart that I just showed you here, okay, showing you what I call the blonde region, the lighter shades. And here is a shade chart showing you general eye colors and how it pertains to hair color. All right. Now hazel is a brown color, and then you have your darker browns, your darker blues, okay. And here on the right-hand side, you have your lighter colors, okay, your greens, your light blue, your light gray, pale grays, all right. And if you look at this chart, for example, people generally, if they have a lighter eye color, they're going to pull a lighter, cooler hair color when you put that color on. Not always. I mean, we definitely do have some people out there that are brunette, natural dark hair brunettes with blue eyes. So it's not always. See, here's a blue-eyed, for example, blue-eyed brunette, for example. But anybody on the left-hand side of the chart here, do not even attempt to make them into a single process blonde, because that is not going to work. But if they fall towards the right-hand side of the chart here, they're your best candidates for single process blonding. All right? So eye color does play a role. So that's the iffy color, number 6. If they have a lighter eye color, even though their hair may be like, for example, you know, a little bit deeper, but it's a level 6, like a dark 6, you may be able to get them into a nice single process blonde. But anybody darker than that, don't even try, because you'll just run into problems with the orange brassy tones. All right? Okay, now let's get into some color corrective procedures. I want to talk about now probably the most important, I would say, 5 color corrective problems that we have and how to fix them. All right, the first one I want to talk about is ash blonde looks drab on gray non-pigmented hair. And the rule here is ash on top of ash produces more ash. Okay, first two things. First of all, every time I use the word gray, a lot of times I'll follow it with the words non-pigmented. And that is because one of the things that I teach in my gray coverage book is that there's no such thing as gray hair. Gray hair is simply a mixture of white hair blended in with pigmented hair. And depending on the percentage of gray to white, it can tend to look gray. But there's no such thing as real gray hair. Okay? So, but here's the thing. If someone's hair is gray or gray white or white like mine or maybe have a lot of gray in it, I have seen many times where people try to give them an ash, make them into an ash blonde. All right. Well, if their hair is gray white already, that's ash. You're not going to get any ashier than that. That's about as ash as you can get. So ashes, keep that in mind, it's not a warm color, it's what we call a drab color. So if you put a drab color on top of it, an ash color, so you're putting ash hair color on ash hair, it's going to end up being too cool and too drab. And this girl here kind of looks very exotic with these light eyes. But I just want to give you an example of what I'm talking about. That very, very ashy look that is not real desirable in a lot of people. And of course, keep in mind that if someone is gray white, a lot of times we're not talking about a young, attractive young girl like this. We're talking about someone who's really mature, has wrinkles in her face. Her skin may look a little bit grayish as well. And now you're going to make her hair look very, very drab. So my point in this is that even if someone a lot of times a customer will come in, she's a mature woman, she's got a lot of gray in her hair, a lot of white in her hair, and she'll say something like, when I was younger, I used to use ash blonde in my hair. My hair always looked good. So I want you to make my hair ash blonde. Now, they don't really know what they're talking about. And when they were younger, by the way, they probably had pigmented hair, not gray-white hair. So it would be appropriate for them to have an ash blonde back in those days. But now their hair is gray, or their hair is white. And if you follow their instruction and you put ash color on top of their ash hair, you're going to probably have a disaster on your hands. So you don't want to do that. And by the way, if you ever do it, and it looks drab and looks terrible, again, mix up your bleach wash, your 10 volume with a little bit of lightener, take her to the sink, wet the hair down, put a little bit of the lightener on there just for a few minutes and pull that drab color right out, and now you're ready to repigment her again with a nicer, warmer color. All right? The second one I want to talk about is blonde hair did not cover gray. All right, so this is pretty typical, and the rule here is this. To get total gray coverage on resistant gray hair, keep in mind a lot of times gray hair is very resistant. To get total gray coverage on resistant gray hair, you'll need to use a level 8 blonde or darker. If the hair is a fine texture, a level 9 may work. So this is the thing. If you're making someone a blonde, single process blonde, and she has gray hair, and she says she wants to be like a nice light blonde, a lot of times we'll tend to think, well, let's look at a level 9 color or even a 10 color that doesn't have a lot of pigment because she wants to be a very light blonde. But in many cases, the level 9 or 10 colors, shades, will not have enough pigmentation in them to cover the gray hair. You need to go deeper. Most manufacturers will tell you that if you want to get good gray coverage using their product, you must use a level 8 color or darker. All right. Okay, let me show you something here just for a second. Let's pretend that, okay, this is my cell phone. Let's pretend my cell phone here. Let's pretend it's a tube of color, all right? And if it was like a level 10, for example, you'd have a lot of ammonia and very little bit of dye load in it. If it was a level 1, you'd have a lot of dye load and a little tiny bit of ammonia. If it was level 5, it'd be about 50-50, all right? But my point is that if you're using a level 9 or level 10 to try to cover resistant gray hair, you're working with almost all ammonia with a little teeny bit of dye load, all right? There simply is not enough dye in that product to cover someone with resistant gray hair. So you want to drop to a little bit of a darker color, like a level 8 or darker. All right, number 3. Blonde hair looks brassy. This is a very, very common problem. Doesn't my hair look brassy? Brassy orange, brassy blondes. And it's kind of like this funny illustration here. A lot of times they may be lighter on the ends, but really, really very, very warm in the regrowth area where the hair is stronger and is of course, natural color. So we don't want the hair to become too brassy or too warm. And this is where my secret rule comes in. The secret to controlling the warmth is to not lift the natural color too much. The more you lift the natural color, the more contributing color pigment will be exposed, and the redder or golder the color result will be. All right. So that's why I told you about my 2-level rule. Don't try to lift the natural color more than 2 levels as a single process operation. Because if you try to lift more than 2 levels, you're going to lose control of the warm tones, and the hair can very easily become brassy. If she wants to be lighter than 2 levels blonde, I would recommend that you either double process the hair or give her highlights with a lightener, with a bleach type product, and you have to break through the orange zone. All right, so you want to make sure you don't lighten too much with a single process color. Okay, number 4, blonde hair looks green. This is pretty common actually, and keep this rule in mind here. Okay, porous hair will always grab ash tones and reject warm tones, and blondes turn green because of this reason. A blonde hair color, even for example, like a tuba color that says it's the level 8G, for example. 8G, as you figure, was level 8. That's the lightness we want. That's the level. And G stands for gold. Okay, so therefore it's a light gold. So you have gold tones. But in that color, if you're using a blended base color, again, this is not the same with Chromatics. That's a pure tone color, but most other color lines are made with blended bases. In that level 8 gold hair color, there's still going to be ashen tones. A lot of times manufacturers, for example, will put a green base in a level 8G, because keep in mind that that 8G hair color is not intended to go on top of pre-lightened hair. That level G8 color was made to go on top of pigmented hair. So when you put that level 8 color on pigmented hair, the pigmented hair is going to bring up warm tones naturally during the oxidation process. So the 8G, if the 8G was strictly gold, gold on top of gold produces a stronger gold. But gold on top of that warm hair color that has green in it will help to subdue that gold some and give you a better looking color. But the problem is that if you put that same HG hair color on top of someone with porous hair or pre-bleached hair or hair that's been really stressed out in some way, porous hair will grab the ash, meaning the green in that tint, and reject the warmth, which is the gold in that tint, and the end product will have a greenish cast to it. I know it sounds a little complicated and a little bit weird, but believe me, that's what happens. All right, and keep in mind that if the hair does turn green, don't freak out, don't worry about it. You know, the best thing to do is take her back to the sink, mix up a little bit of your bleach wash again, your 10 volume with your lightener, and take the green out, and then recolor it with a different type of color. All right, okay. And our 5th one. Well, before I go into number 5 here, I want to touch on something here. If you are a Chromatics user watching this, Chromatics, as you know, is a pure tone hair color. Okay. And with a blonde would not turn green in Chromatics because blended bases do have a green cast to them with the lightener in the blonde shades, but with Chromatics you do not have any green in it because it's what they call a pure tone color. And you can see here the chart that I made with Chromatics. This is 8G on bleached out hair right there, and you've got arrows pointing, and you can see there's no green in it whatsoever. It's just a beautiful 8G. All right. So again, this is for those of you that are using Chromatics. It's a little bit different story for you. You don't have to worry about it. But for almost all the rest of you that are using blended base color, which is, like I said, Wella, L'Oreal, Schwarzkopf, and all the rest of them, then you will have to deal with the green here and get that out. All right. Okay, and the 5th one that I want to talk about is when making the salt and pepper hair blonde. Again, the gray, meaning the gray or the white hair, looks good, but the darker color now looks red. Okay, and keep the rule in mind: less equals less warmth. Okay, and this is, for example, when someone has salt and pepper hair, so they have white hair mixed in with a brown, for example, or medium brown, or even a dark blonde. So if you put one color over the whole thing, the white hair could look great because the white hair with that blonde color you put on there is going to look fine. The problem is that you've also put that, for example, level 8 or 9 blonde color on top of the dark pigmented hair that's blended into that. And the white hair looks great, but now the dark hair is too orange, too warm. All right. Well, what you want to do in that case is, first of all, I would not use permanent color on her. I would definitely use a demi color on her. By using a demi color on her, the gray hair you can make nice and blonde, but it won't lift or lighten the dark color. All right. So you want to keep the dark color dark and just get the gray to blend in nicely. All right. Again, that'll give you a really nice gradation of color because you'll have the blonde hair, which all the gray is now turned blonde, but she'll still have her dark hair. All right. So it's a really nice mix. It kind of makes the gray hair look like a highlighting instead of gray hair, and she still has her dark pigmented hair that's not going to be orange. So definitely she is a candidate, in my opinion, for a demi type color. Now, if she says to you, look, I really want to be blonde all over, then I would do something different. Then, of course, you could color her like I just said, and then go ahead and put in highlights with foils and a lightener, or of course you can also double process the hair and completely bleach out all the warm tones as well. All right, but she's not going to be a good candidate for all over single process blonding if she has a lot of dark pigmented hair because of what I said already. Okay, those of you again that are Chromatics users, it's a little bit different here. You can create what's called a hybrid type of color. It's called super glazing, and that's when you can get your gray white hair to be a blonde color, but it'll only lift the dark hair one level, and will not be too red. So if you're a Chromatics user on this watching this video today, Chromatics has of course their permanent shades, which do have ammonia and do create lift, and then they have their deposit only shades, which has no ammonia and no lift. But if you mix these two together in equal portions with 20 volume developer, you're creating a third type of a color that Tom Dispenza calls super glazing. And by super glazing, what you'll get is you will get a nice pigmentation coverage on the gray white hair, but the dark hair will only lighten one level. And therefore, it'll warm it up a little bit, but it's not going to be orange or brassy. So that works really, really nice as well. All right? Okay. And that's all I have for you today. I want you to remember that I have a couple websites I want you to check out. We have haircoloruniversity.com, and on haircoloruniversity.com, I post all my blogs. Some of the blogs are written hair color lessons, and some of them are video lessons, such as the one we're recording right now, and tons and tons of information there that you can get for free. I also teach my webinars. Some of them are recorded and some of them are live. You can find out all my webinar information at haircoloruniversity.com. And soon I'll be incorporating e-courses on there as well. So all that information will come from haircoloruniversity.com. And then those of you that have my books or are interested in getting my books, you can go to haircolortradesecrets.com. Haircolortradesecrets.com is where you can find out all the information on my books and on my videos. Also, if you're interested at all in checking out the review that I wrote on Chromatics hair color, those of you that are not using Chromatics and are interested to learn more about it, because it is a pure tone color and it's very different, and I love it. I love the way it works. You can go to this website here. It's called haircolorinfo.com, and haircolorinfo.com, I've written a complete hair color review on Chromatics. And I mean, here's just a couple of things I like about it. First of all, it's 30% less than most other color lines to buy. It's easy to use because it uses the American level system. It requires a super small inventory. I mean, the whole permanent line only consists of 19 shades. Leaves the hair in phenomenal condition, and it has great education, which I do partly, and Tom Dispenza, the owner, does, and we do it together a lot of times. All right, so there you have it. And I want to thank you for joining me on this class today, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me through my website, haircoloruniversity.com, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks. Bye.